Hello and welcome to News Central TV. I'm Darshan Usman. The top stories this hour. Leo XIV presides over First Mass as Pope as world leaders welcome first U.S. Catholic leader. Nigeria's military high command blames foreign herders for attacks on communities. 5 ex-Senegalese ministers to appear before special court over COVID fund scandal. Details in a moment. We begin by telling you that Pope Leo XIV presided over his first Mass as the 267th Pope on Friday at the Sistine Chapel, marking the beginning of his papacy. The service included readings in multiple languages, notably a passage from the First Epistle of St. Peter in Spanish, reflecting his ties to Peru. The choir opened with an antiphon from Psalms 46. Leo XIV is the first American-born pope, surprising the global community and Vatican alike. In his initial address, he called for peace, dialogue, and a missionary church that builds bridges. The Mass was attended by cardinals and broadcast live, symbolizing a new chapter for the Catholic Church amid global challenges. Meanwhile, world leaders have warmly congratulated Pope Leo XIV on his election, urging him to champion peace in an increasingly conflict-ridden world. President Bola Tinubu extended his congratulations, expressing confidence that the election of Pope Leo XIV marks a new chapter for the Roman Catholic Church, one that reinforces its enduring values of love, humanity, and compassion for the underprivileged. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said the Pope's early emphasis on peace resonates with the hopes of much of humanity and honors the legacy of the late Pope Francis. In his congratulatory message, U.S. President Donald Trump said it was an honor to see the first American elected to the papacy, adding that he looks forward to meeting Pope Leo XIV. On his part, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed hope that the new pope will use his influence to promote peace amid the ongoing war in Russia, while his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin voiced optimism for improved relations. In the same vein, China extended formal congratulations to Pope Leo XIV following his election as the new head of the Catholic Church, signaling an interest in furthering diplomatic engagements with the Vatican. Officials in Beijing expressed optimism that communication on shared international priorities will continue under the new pontiff's leadership. To have more conversations on this, we're joined by Bishop Neil Frank. He is a member of Oblates of Mary Immaculate. Thank you so much for joining us, Bishop.
Good morning.
Now, firstly, thank you so much. Now, firstly, I'd like to hear your reaction to the election of the new Pope. What are your expectations for his papacy?
Well, it's very exciting that we have a new Pope. I did not know him before his election. I had not met him either. My expectation is continuity with Pope Francis's teaching, as well as complementing St. Francis's teaching. And I'm hoping that there will be more commentary on political, social, economic systems. And I think that's a reasonable expectation. His first greeting was about peace. And this is extending peace in our world in which there are several wars taking place. Some make the media and some don't make the media. So I'm hoping, and since he chose the name of Leo XIV, which is a continuity with Leo XIII, and Leo XIII is well known for beginning the social teaching of the Church with that encyclical Rerum Novarum. That encyclical started the Church's thinking on the common good, I think we need that in our world. We need it in Africa in particular.
Okay. Now, Bishop, how can the Church under Pope Leo XIV contribute to peace-building efforts in conflict zones like Ukraine and other regions, especially in Africa, facing war and political instability?
The Pope, in his first message, talked about building bridges, which you had just quoted yourself. I think that's one of the most important things to do, is to bring people together to talk, to find solutions, but not just finding solutions that benefit each other, is helping people appreciate the dignity of each person. And the wars take place when we don't appreciate and promote the dignity of people. So we see that in the big wars that are making the media, which will be Ukraine and Gaza. But we must look at Africa. South Africa, there's conflict in Mozambique. There's the big conflict in the DRC and Sudan. There are 35 armed conflicts in Africa. We don't hear about them, but we need to build those bridges. And I think commentary on political systems, economic systems that bring equality to all people. We need that to touch the leadership in our countries, in our organizations, to make our leaders concerned about the well-being of every person.
Absolutely. Now, Bishop, ahead of the conclave, some cardinals called for continuity with Pope Francis's vision of greater openness and reform, while others also favored a return to tradition. Now, Pope Leo appeared in traditional papal attire, unlike his predecessor, who appeared in, just a plain white robe. Now, some interpret this as symbolic. What do you think? Is it truly significant?
I did not read anything into that. He wore, I don't know what it's exactly called, over his cassock, which is a good thing. It's because it's a formal moment of meeting the people. I don't think there was anything particularly significant about that. Yes, we want to be true to our tradition, but our tradition's always looking forward to the mission of Christ and its implementation in our time. The mission of Christ is to bring life and bring it abundantly. And that's being true to that tradition will be being true to what St. Francis had started. St. Francis did not make any doctrinal changes. That's our tradition, is the doctrine of the Church. But it's bringing the love of God more in an accessible way to all people. That's an important part. Every individual feels that they belong and they are inside and they are concerned. Our lives, people's lives are generally messy, and they want to know that the Church stands by them. The Church stands by them with God's mercy and God's love. While talking about the individuals, we have to talk about the systems in which individuals live and which create the context and the opportunities in their lives. And a number of our contexts are not good because they're filled with corruption and power seeking and conflict that degrades people and not promotes the economy of our countries, our continent in particular. So I think there's a place for tradition in a conservative sense because it's not changing tradition, but we got to look to upholding the dignity of people in our time.
Absolutely. So just before we let you go, Bishop Frank, given Pope Leo XIV's background in Latin America and also the United States, how do you think his leadership would shape the Church's engagement with social justice and human rights issues?
I think social justice is foremost in his mind. I listened to the interview of his brother, and his brother emphasized that point as well, that Pope Leo XIV is on the side of the disenfranchised, he said, on the side of the poor. And I think that experience in South America certainly forms him and forms his ministry to seek social justice and to be on the side of the poor. I'm very hopeful for that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Bishop, for your time and for speaking on this.
Thank you.
Away from that, the Nigerian Senate has passed the remaining 2 of the 4 tax reform bills proposed by President Bola Tinubu. Now, the 2 bills passed on Thursday are the Nigeria Tax Bill 2025 and the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill. The Joint Revenue Board Bill seeks to harmonize revenue collection across all tiers of government and establish a tax appeal tribunal to be headed by a civil servant as Executive Secretary. Now, the Nigeria Tax Bill, on its part, consolidates the country's tax laws to modernize the system, improve compliance, and strengthen economic growth. Both bills were debated at the Committee of the Whole and passed after a majority of senators supported them via a voice vote.
I want to reiterate the Conference Committee on Harmonization of the Tax Reform Bills has passed differently by the House of Representatives and Senate. If you notice, what we passed here had slight differences with what the House of Representatives did, because here we actually were very meticulous in ensuring that we did some more clarity in terms of certain provisions. So I believe that the Conference Committee will take it from there. Please feel free to bring it up, and we can see make amendment.
We looked at the BAT. We looked at the BAT, and we also looked at the issue of the development levy, which have generated a lot of controversies. We also looked at the issue of family income, inheritance, which has created a lot, and all this has been expunged in order at least to...
Senate President Godswill Akpabio has responded to recent comments made by Peter Obi, the Labour Party's presidential candidate in the 2023 elections. Now, Obi, while speaking at a valedictory session held in honor of the late elder statesman, Chief Edwin Clark, had remarked that the labors of Nigeria's past heroes were already in vain given the country's current realities. But in his remarks, Akpabio urged Obi to first demonstrate leadership by resolving the internal crisis in the Labour Party before inciting public sentiment and using social media to criticize the government. He further advised Obi to take a cue from the legacy of the late Edwin Clark, whom he described as a unifier and symbol of national cohesion.
The statement that the labors of our heroes past are in vain, I beg to disagree. Let our brother Peter Obi show leadership like Edwin Clark did by resolving first the crisis in the Labour Party. For a man who wants to run Nigeria, you have one of the smallest parties in Nigeria, and you cannot even resolve the crisis in that Labour Party. Is it the crisis of Boko Haram that you will come and resolve in Nigeria? I would like us to be known for what we did when we had the opportunities.
With that, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll tell you that DHQ blames foreign herders for attacks on communities. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Now, the trial of former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello has again resumed on Friday at the Federal High Court in Abuja. The hearing resumed with the defense counsel cross-examining the third prosecution witness, Nicholas Ojeoma, who is the internal auditor of the American International School in Abuja. The defense questioned Ojeoma on previous testimonies he had given in related cases involving members of the Bello family. Under questioning, the witness confirmed that he had earlier testified at the Federal High Court in a separate matter involving Ali Bello and others, but not Yahaya Bello himself. He also said the American International School, Abuja, where the school fees in question were allegedly paid, had not been summoned before any other court on the matter. News Central's Joshua Marai joins us for more on this. Hello, Joshua. Please, can you tell us what happened in court today, if you can hear me? Joshua, can you tell us what happened in court today?
Yeah, good afternoon to you, Darshan. Well, continuing cross-examination, the defense counsel, that is person of J.B. Dauda, questioned the witness brought forth before the court. That is the person of Nicholas Ojehomon, the internal auditor with the American International School in Abuja. The internal auditor with the American International School, Abuja, testified before the court that there is actually a ruling before another court, but Yahaya Bello was not a party to that particular case happening in another court. Well, the defense counsel ended the cross-examination of the witness before the court, and the counsel to the EFCC actually moved to cross-examine the witness on that particular document, which they had argued for and against earlier. Well, this was opposed by the defense counsel, who said you cannot cross-examine that particular witness unless you first render that particular witness as a hostile witness. Now, Kemi Pinheiro, that's the counsel representing the EFCC, clarified that he was not cross-examining, but he was just attempting to examine. Well, there were arguments back and forth, until the bench actually said he was going to give a ruling on the matter and adjourned to June 26 to rule on the matter.
All right, Joshua, but how many witnesses are expected to testify in court against Yahaya Bello and the family?
Well, the EFCC said earlier that they had 26 witnesses, and they complained that the time taken to examine and cross-examine that particular witness, that is the internal auditor with the American International School in Abuja, has elongated and is prolonging the court process. They even voiced opinion saying that they think that the defense counsel was trying to stall and waste time on this particular witness, that they can even take over 4 months on this particular case. But we know, because of what they said earlier in court, that they have 26 witnesses lined up to testify against Yahaya Bello to substantiate their claim of the alleged money laundering before the court.
Well, Joshua, do we also have an idea why the school is yet to be summoned? Can you hear me? Do we have an idea why the school is yet to be summoned?
Well, the school has been summoned. The internal auditor, that is the person of Nicholas Ojehomon, is the one representing the school. Sometime yesterday, the defense counsel questioned the internal auditor, saying, you are the one being told to represent the school in standing as witness in the ongoing trial of Yahaya Bello. He confirmed yes. He now further asked him if this particular decision was contested amongst the board of governors of the school. Immediately, the EFCC witness raised an objection, saying the witness who is being called for, that's the prosecuting witness, that is the person of the internal auditor of the American International School in Abuja, cannot know the mind of the board of governors, neither can he know the mind of the principal. So they were saying that question was preemptive, and the bench actually ruled out that question. So for sure, the witness that is standing before the court, that is the person of Nicholas Ojehomon, is representing the American International School in Abuja as the front person to testify in court.
Well, thank you, Joshua, for that update. We'll continue to keep tabs on the story. President Bola Tinubu has pledged to address long-standing development challenges in Anambra State and the wider southeast region. Now, these include severe erosion, the underutilization of gas reserves, and the exclusion of Anambra from the National Rail Master Plan. Speaking at a civic reception held at Alex Ekweme Square during his state visit, President Tinubu reaffirmed the federal government's commitment to enhancing road infrastructure and promoting inclusive development to strengthen national unity. He also announced federal backing for ecological investments to combat erosion and promised to review Anambra's omission from National Gas Master Plan. Meanwhile, Anambra State Governor Professor Chukwuma Soludo pledged his full support for the president along with that of his party and All Progressives Grand Alliance.
Use this opportunity to thank the governor.
Southeast have huge gas deposit. That is true, but largely bypassed by the National Gas Master Plan. I assure you that will be rectified. Abandoned federal road projects that link Anambra to Kogi, it can become the fastest gateway between Abuja and Anambra South and South-South. I agree. Anambra completely bypassed by the rail master plan. I'm standing before you that this already designed a Ministry of Transportation is aware to include the connection in the master plan, and it will see attention.
What you commissioned today, Mr. President, are mere symbolisms of the audacity of our dreams for a new Anambra State. Like the Americans will say, and as we repeatedly affirmed on the Anambra, you ain't seen nothing yet. Fellow Nigerians, beyond Anambra State, Nigeria must survive and prosper. For the sake of Nigeria and future generations, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu must succeed, and we are prepared to support him in every possible way, not only to succeed, but to excel.
To security matters, the Delta State House of Assembly is currently holding a public hearing on a bill seeking to amend the State Community Security Core Agency law. Now, the hearing is being organized by the Joint Committees on Special Bills and Peace and Security at the State House of Assembly complex in Asaba. In attendance are key stakeholders, including representatives from the Delta State Command of the Nigerian Police Force, the Department of State Services, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, the Ministry of Justice, and the state chapter of the Association of Local Governments of Nigeria. Others present include the Delta State Security Trust Fund, the State Council of Traditional Rulers, the Directorate of Political and Security Matters, the Nigerian Bar Association, the Nigerian Union of Journalists, as well as representatives from both public and private sectors.
This bill seeks to amend the old bill that we had, and by the time it is assented to, we hope that it will be activated to check the insecurity situation in Delta State. We have deemed it expedient to invite the public to send in memoranda on their thoughts, their contributions towards this bill, so that by the time we pass it, it will be for the general good of Deltans.
Our News Central's Austin Azu joins us for more update on this. Hello, Austin. Can you tell us what are the current security challenges confronting Delta State and how the state government is addressing these challenges?
Good afternoon. Of course, you should note that the Constitution of Nigeria in section 14, subsection 2b of the 1999 Constitution as altered, explicitly states that the primary purpose of government is to provide security and welfare for the citizens. And of course, part of activities or part of mechanisms being put in place by the state governments to ensure that the people of Delta State have this protection of life and security is what is currently holding on in this particular place we are seeing here, the Assembly Complex. The public hearing is ongoing and it seeks to address the security challenges confronting the grassroots level. And of course, over the past few years, Delta State has been grappling with the issue of, herdsmen clash with farmers, and of course, kidnapping, ritual killings, and so on and so forth. So this particular bill is one of the antidotes that is going to be used to, prevent and reduce these insecurity challenges confronting the states. However, like you rightly said, we have many of these stakeholders who are currently brainstorming on the way forward. The bill has passed through the first reading, of course, the second reading, and of course, now the public hearing. And the input of the various stakeholders here will garner more efforts to ensure they are able to bring to bear what is going to look like, how the state is going to look like in terms of fighting insecurity from the grassroots level. And we are hoping, and Deltas are anticipating, that this bill will be given the necessary legal backing, the necessary political will, and the necessary financial way to fly. And of course, the bill, of course, is going to be under the supervision of the local government. Don't forget to where that the local government at the moment right now have been granted financial autonomy. So it means that the money that the local government will be receiving, part of it will be going into security, to help the locals to live a happy life, to help the locals to go to their farms, to help the locals to have a well-secured environment. So it's no longer going to be an excuse as usual. So it's going to be like what the money they are spending is going to be for the security of the people. And one of the areas being raised from the public hearing here is the aspect of the implementation. Of course, it is expected that the bill will skate through the day. Haven't gotten to this extent. And don't forget that this bill is amendment. Of course, the bill has been passed in 2020. So what they are seeking to amend is just sections of the bill, and of course add some flesh to it and make it more, flexible, so that the people from the grassroots level will have more security. And part of the framework is that they are going to have at least per ward. That's the states per ward. They are going to have at least 3 nominees, average youths from between the ages of 18 to 50 thereabouts, that is going to be part of the corps, and they are going to be trained by the police, and of course they are going to be under the supervision of the agency, which is going to be at the state capital here. And of course we have the Director General of Security, and of course we have so many components that are going to form that particular agency to ensure that they're able to function effectively. Besides that as well, the people who are going to be recruited will be from the various local government areas, across the 25 local government areas of the state, and they're going to provide the necessary security needed for the people to function effectively. And one aspect that equally looking at is the aspect of AI, digital technology, to ensure they are able to provide them the necessary working tools for them to work effectively. If this being implemented, Deltans will have a sigh of relief when it comes to protection of lives and security. The issue of herders and farmers clashes, of course, will drastically reduce, because we now have people at the local area that will help to nip those crises in the bud. Of course, the issue of kidnapping, we have so many of them rampaging here and then. So these are lots more that will be tackled by the agency, and of course the corps, of course, once they come on board.
About how it is going to be implemented, but we'd love to hear from you. You did talk about people from the grassroots level. What do the citizens or the residents of Delta State think about this particular law? Bill.
From the stakeholders who are here at the moment, they are quite happy about the bill. All they are sorting to amend in the bill is just to ensure that in terms of operational activities, in terms of the recruitment process, and of course in terms of funding as well. Like I said earlier on, the funding will strictly come from the local governments, and of course in terms of the recruitment process, the bill is seeking to have the intervention of the representative of each of the local governments here in the State House of Assembly, the traditional rulers, and of course are saying that the DPO should be the one to recommend. But at the end of this public hearing, definitely they will be able to go back to the drawing board before it will be passed. Of course, at the committee of whole in the House, it will be considered clause by clause. When it gets to that point in time, the ayes will have it. Of course, the opinion being sought from these stakeholders will equally be considered why they are carrying out these activities, so that before they will get to the public hearing, the committee members will be able to have all it takes for a robust bill that will serve the interest of residents of Delta State. The stakeholders who represent a large numbers of the residents of the state are quite happy with the bill, and they are expectant that the bill should come to bear so that they will be able to have this issue bedeviling the residents being tackled and taken to being brought to the nearest minimum.
Right. Well, thank you so much for that update, Austin. Away from that, the Defense Headquarters has blamed foreign herders for a majority of the recent violent attacks on farming communities in Plateau, Benue, and several other states. Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Marcus Ganye, said many of the assailants are identified as non-Nigerians based on their language and physical appearance. He noted that differences in Hausa dialects and distinctive features such as hair texture often reveal their foreign origins. While acknowledging that some Nigerian herders are involved in the farmer-herder clashes, Kange stressed that most attacks are being carried out by foreigners who enter the country through porous borders. The DHQ has called for tighter border security and stronger interagency collaboration to curb the growing threat posed by those infiltrators. 5 suspects allegedly responsible for the abduction and killing of 8-year-old Sakina Mahmuda in Gwarzo area of Kano State have been arrested by the Department of State Services. While parading the suspects at the government house in Kano, the State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Haruna Dederi, said the suspects kidnapped Sakina at her home in Duhum Baki village, requested for ransom from her parents, but later killed her, dumping her corpse in an abandoned open well.
Command of the Department of Security Service successfully busted a syndicate of kidnappers who a few days back had kidnapped an 8-year-old girl named Sakina Mahmuda at Duhumbake village of Gwarzo local government area. They demanded ransom and still murdered the little girl and dumped her corpse into an abandoned old open well. The Kano command of DSS not only recovered the decomposing corpse of the little girl, but also successfully arrested all the 5 members of the syndicate group. The 5 suspects you are seeing sitting there, namely Zailani Rabiu, who is just of 23 years old, Hafiz Yusuf Muhammad, of 25 years old, Abubakar Abdul Karim, popularly known as Danyalo, 25 years, Umar Lawan Abdullahi, of 43 years, and number 5, Ahmadu Salisu Ahmadi, of 50 years, all of the same village, Duhumbake, Gwarzo local government area, are those who jointly conspired, kidnapped and murdered the little girl. While commending the efforts of the Kano command of the DSS, the Kano state government specially commiserates with the family of the victim.
Ai gaga ba su kudi. Ka san su ne? Kudi abinda suka bukata suka ce ba da miliyan 50. Daga nan suka dawo suka ce ai gaga ko da miliyan 8 ne a ba su. A ƙarshe nawa kuka tsaya? To a ƙarshe daga nan muka kai rahoto gon ma'aikata suka ji a bakinsu, daga nan suka ce mu basu da su. An nemi 200 ne kacal.
To me yasa kuka kashe ta?
Ba su ba mu kuɗin ba.
To me yasa kuka kashe ta? sakamakon an nemi waɗannan kuɗi ba a samu ba ɗan yare ya murɗe mata wuya ta mutu.
The Lagos State government has issued a traffic advisory ahead of Saturday's All Progressives Congress primaries for local council elections in the state. Commissioner for Transportation, Oluwaseun Oshiemi, announced that motorists will not be able to access Acme Road from the Adeni Jones, Lateef Jakonde, and Acme Crescent routes during the primaries. Now, he urged the public to plan their movements in advance to avoid inconvenience. In the meantime, preparations are in full swing for the APC chairmanship and councillorship primaries scheduled for 10th May in Lagos State. The party has convened a high-level meeting involving key leaders, aspirants, and also stakeholders to finalize arrangements for selecting candidates to represent the APC in the upcoming 12th July local government elections. There are growing concerns over the health impact of junk food on Nigerians. A new media presentation titled Junk in Our Plates, released by the Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa, CAPA, has shed light on the alarming dangers posed by the rising consumption of ultra-processed foods in the country. News Central correspondent Bettina Ngweli reports.
The presentation exposes how sugary beverages, salty snacks, and processed meals, often loaded with trans fats and artificial additives, are contributing to the rise in non-communicable diseases such as obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and even cancer.
Junk on Our Plates documents how both multinational and local companies continue to leverage false narratives, misleading labels, lack of appropriate regulation, and aggressive marketing to push on healthy foods and drinks.
Experts warn that aggressive marketing by multinational food corporations, especially targeting young people and low-income communities, is making matters worse. Hence the call for stricter regulations on junk food advertising, clearer food labeling, and stronger public health campaigns to educate Nigerians on better dietary choices.
We know that there's an increasing connection between what we eat and how our body reacts to these things. What we found out in recent times, and even with the course of our research, is that the market for food in the country is saturated with unhealthy diets. When I say unhealthy diets, I mean prepackaged foods loaded with salt, sugar, and trans fat excessively.
Those at the helm of power are urged to prioritize local nutritious food alternatives and support policies that limit the availability of harmful processed foods, especially in schools and public institutions.
The front of pack labeling and the SSB tax needs to be increased from 10 naira to 130 naira. This tax, the SSB tax, is a pro-head tax, and we take cognizance of the fact that this tax should also, when increased, be earmarked for control of non-communicable diseases. We have a 30% prevalence rate in non-communicable diseases in Nigeria. Obesity is on the rise, hypertension is on the rise, we have people slumming daily. And if this tax is earmarked after increase to 130 naira, it can now be properly channeled through the Ministry of Health or whatever regulatory agencies.
There is need for food justice and corporate accountability in Nigeria's food system. When it comes to our health and future, junk should stay off our plates. In Lagos, for News Central, Bettina Ngwili.
Away from Nigeria, Senegal's National Assembly has voted to establish a special court inquiry into 5 former ministers accused of diverting COVID-19 relief funds during the 2020-2021 pandemic. The ministers, who served under former President Macky Sall, are accused of misappropriating funds intended to support healthcare services and vulnerable households. Among those implicated are Amadou Mansour Faye, Sall's brother-in-law, who allegedly diverted $4.5 million. This move is part of President Bassirou Diomaye Faye's sweeping anti-corruption campaign targeting the previous administration. The special court, which convenes only in exceptional cases, will decide whether the ministers should stand trial. In South Africa, the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, in collaboration with the Gertrude Shope Women's Mediation Network, is hosting the Solidarity Conference on Women, Peace and Security, Voices of Women in a Global Environment of Escalating Conflict. The conference brings together women mediators, government officials, civil society actors, and international partners to highlight the disproportionate impact of global conflicts on women and youth while strengthening collective efforts towards peace building. Now, South Africa's Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, delivered the keynote address. We'll bring you details in our subsequent bulletin. Around the world, Russia has staged large-scale Victory Day celebrations in several cities, including Khabarovsk and Yekaterinburg, to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War. The Kremlin used the occasion to foster national unity and protect military strength amid its ongoing campaign in Ukraine. President Vladimir Putin presided over the main parade in Moscow, joined by more than 20 foreign dignitaries, including Chinese President Xi Jinping. Thousands of troops, including veterans of the Ukraine conflict, marched across Red Square. Putin claimed nationwide backing for what the Kremlin calls a special military operation. Meanwhile, in Lviv, Ukraine's partners discussed launching a tribunal aimed at holding Russian leaders or leadership accountable for wartime actions.
Славных боевых традиций тех, кто поверг фашизм, самой тяжелой, самой кровопролитной 4 июня 1945 года. В форме сухопутных войск Советского Союза кормление старшего лейтенанта Александра Соловьева. К трибуне приближается парадный расчет офицеров.
In business, Nigeria's efforts to transition to a competitive bilateral electricity market are being hindered by systemic issues including a 4 trillion naira market debt and an unreliable national grid. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission mandated electricity distribution companies to take charge of tariff setting, but this initiative remains stalled amid repeated grid failures. Analysts highlight that the transition is complicated by the creation of the Nigerian Independent System Operator and a new Electricity Act 2023, which decentralizes regulation. With DISCOs struggling financially and high energy losses, stakeholders warn that without addressing these challenges, the bilateral trading system risks collapse. The International Monetary Fund has confirmed that Nigeria has fully repaid the $3.4 billion loan it received in April 2020 under the Rapid Financing Instrument to address the economic fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic and falling oil prices. In a recent statement, the IMF said the repayment was completed on April 30th, 2025. Despite settling the principle, Nigeria will continue to make annual payments of about $30 million in special drawing rights charges until its SDR holdings match its allocation. And in the world of sports, Team Nigeria has officially withdrawn from the 2025 World Relays in Guangzhou, China, due to visa delays caused by Chinese authorities. And despite submitting applications on April 25th in Washington, D.C., Berlin and Abuja, Nigerian athletes faced prolonged processing times and unclear documentation requirements. According to reports, visas were eventually issued on May 8th, the same day the team was scheduled to arrive in China, making travel and participation unfeasible. Confusion around the verification letter of invitation and inconsistent communication from the local organizing committee contributed to the delays. Some U.S.-based athletes even had their passports returned without visas. The Athletics Federation of Nigeria described the situation as a major administrative failure that deprived the country's athletes of a critical international competition opportunity. Nigeria's under-17 women's football team, the Flamingos, will participate in the 2024 National Sports Festival in Abeokuta as part of the newly introduced Invited Junior Athletes Group. Now created by the National Sports Commission, the IJA initiative serves as a platform to groom top youth talents across various sports, effectively acting as the 38th team at the festival. Now, over 100 athletes have been selected to compete in 11 disciplines, including football, athletics, table tennis, and swimming. The Flamingos, fresh off World Cup qualification, will represent IJA in women's football. The inclusion is aimed at exposing promising talents to high-level competition, aligning with the NSC's broader vision of developing elite athletes for national and international success. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. We told you that Leo XIV presided over First Mass as Pope as world leaders welcome first U.S. Catholic leader. We also told you that Nigeria's military high command has blamed foreign herders for attacks on communities. Finally, you heard that 5 ex-Senegalese ministers to appear before special court over COVID fund scandal. Remember, you may send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do you follow us on social media? We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.